What are your thoughts on professional sports?
That's a loaded question. I really don't watch a lot of football, basketball, or anything like that. I think it's pretty cool. I like watching MMA. I think that it creates a lot of different disciplines, and there's a lot of talented, strong, freaking people out there. So I think it's pretty cool in some ways, but I'm not that into it. The one thing, man, I was going to say something about professional sports. One thing that I do like about sports is I like the discipline that it kind of makes you have. And so, if you're on a one-on-one sport, I do like that it kind of creates this, hey, it's all up to you in some ways. Like if you're in boxing or wrestling or anything that's like one-on-one, you can't go and point the finger at anybody else. You got to take some personal responsibility when you continue to lose. You could blame it on your coach, blame it on other people, but realistically, you got to take some accountability. When you're on a team with people, it also helps build that team aspect of hey, dude, you got to figure out how to work together, and you're only as strong as your weakest link. And so if somebody else is being weak or messes something up, you got to learn how to encourage and then help them to get what you want instead of just talking down to them, because that's usually not going to be very effective on a team. So I definitely like professional sports. And then the last thing that I'll say about professional sports is it makes me think of an analogy. And then I'm writing a book right now, from foster care to millionaire. And so in that book, I'm going to be talking about how the odds are set against us, especially when you're in foster care and you grow up poor. Everybody thinks, oh man, this person's not going to go and do anything. The deck is stacked against you, right? And then I listened to Alex Hormozy or somebody, and they basically talked about, well, what changes your odds? And this is where the analogy comes in for the professional sports. Well, what's the odds of you becoming wealthy? Very low. What's the odds of somebody going into professional baseball, into professional basketball, into one of these professionals? It is less than 1%. It's very unlikely. But guess what raises those odds? If you're 7 foot tall, if you're extremely athletic, if you're very agile there. So that's something that you can't necessarily control, but that changes the odds, right? And so what I think about is just the same way that a professional changes the odds based on different skill sets that they have, what changes your odds for if you're going to become wealthy or not? If you're working out, if you're taking care of your health, if you're learning, if you're reading books, if you're getting around wealthier people, those all change your odds, and those are all under your control. And so while it's not guaranteed, it's definitely going to raise your chances. And so while it's stacked against us, that's not an excuse to not go out there and control what we can control and raise our chances of actually, going and doing something or, becoming successful or wealthy.
Cool. I just feel like when I'm in the locker room or something, people are always talking about what happened at last night's football game, and I feel like that's all their main purpose besides work is. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It just feels like that's their escape. They don't participate in the sport, but they're just that's their thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
Yeah, so the reason that I think that is because I think that people want a community, and I think that people really want to feel involved with something. So that's why I think that church, football teams, all of that stuff is there, is because people want to feel involved in a tight-knit community. They want to feel like they're part of something, whether that's them going and playing a game or being a fan of a sports team. Now it feels like they're a part of something that's bigger than them. And so I believe that that's one of our human desires, and that's why I think that people really attach to them.
That makes sense. How are you so consistent?
So I would say the things that go through my head are very similar to other people. Man, I don't want to do this. It's going to be hard. And I really, I don't want to wake up this morning. A couple different things. One is I will choose to set that aside even when I don't want to, because I think about what I really want, and a lot of times what I really want is bigger than whatever that desire is. I also have this interesting thing that's cost me in different areas that I was actually just talking to my counselor about this morning, but I have this weird thing where if I say I'm going to do something, I need to do it, because otherwise it feels like I'm out of integrity and I feel like I'm lying, and that's very, very important to me. That's a high value of mine, which is interesting. It turns into other areas that aren't so helpful. But what I would say is consistency comes for me just from a desire to like be everything that God created me to be. And so I feel like it's a weight, and then it's also like a purpose, and it gets me excited, but then also feels stressful at other times where I feel like I have to perform. And then I would say that being around everybody else in the office and then like being the leader, I have to like show by example, right? And so if I'm going to hold everybody to a certain standard, I have to at least be at that standard, if not higher. And so for me, it's a lot of responsibility to be the example, to take care of myself. And that's what I really think that loving yourself is like holding yourself accountable, being disciplined. Like loving yourself is not going out and, drinking and taking care of yourself in all these ways. Like I believe that loving yourself is doing the things that are going to be difficult for your better, for your future. So that's the reasons of why it's easier for me to be disciplined. It's not easy because a lot of people think that I just do it naturally, and it's not a natural thing. It's just a thing that I care more about the outcome than I care about how I feel in the moment.